My inspiration for you today has to do with a quote that came from a podcast that was hosted, or it was a podcast with a gentleman by the name of Adam Savage. And it read, "The success of a culture hinges on whether or not that culture remains endlessly curious. If we are a culture that thinks we know everything, we are destined for failure. But if we remain endlessly curious, we're going to be okay." And as a book publisher for independent publishers, being curious is a plus because you will keep learning and growing and applying information that you learn because of your curiosity. If something is not working the way that you want it to work, then your curiosity is going to drive you to look at other ways of doing that. And that's kind of what I want to talk with you about today is that first book that you have done, how to create a journal from some of your that first book or using content from that first book to provoke thinking. So I want to welcome you to Clayton Communications and Publishing, our online newsletter, Facebook online newsletter, where we turn your stories into books. I'm Coach Blondie, your host, and my topic is how to create themed journals that sell. So, as we're looking at themed journals that sell, what types of journals are selling in the market? So, we know that journals are popular, and you probably own a couple yourself. I know I do, especially the ones that have attractive covers. Because I find for myself personally, is when I see an attractive cover, it kind of makes me want to own that book or that journal, whether or not it meets whatever my need might be, or whether or not I'm going to use it for a particular thing or want to use it for something special. So your first task is to visit a online bookstore distributor like Amazon and look for themed journals. So you might want to type in depression journal or worry and anxiety journal or gratitude journal. So that'll get you into that themed area, the themed journal area. And then once you get into there, and once you know or you're able to see what types of journals, now you can look at your content and see, okay, what can I create from my content? Can I create a healing journal? Can I create a depression journal? Can I create a positivity journal or a motivational journal? What kind of journal can I create? And I created this small journal called Writing to Heal with journal prompts, and it's to help control emotions that kind of depress you. And I don't know, did you were you able to see that pretty good? And I created this, and it's kind of small, but I didn't want it to be very large, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the ideas are endless. So once you figure out what you want to do, what kind of journal you want to make, and you settle on one title. You might want to do several from your content and then just settle on one. And once you've chosen your subject, now what do you want your prompts to say? In my case here with my depression journal, my first prompt was who are you? And I left space here for them to write in who they are. So you decide how you want to do it. It can take up pages or it can just take up a small space, and then you can encourage them to use extra pages in another notebook or other sheets to record whatever else that they want. So the prompts, what they do is they help to walk your buyer or your reader or your user through where you want to take them. And how do you get to your prompts? What you do is you sit down and you make an outline of the maybe statements or questions that you're going to ask them where they have to explain things. And that would be the beginning of putting together your prompts. So when you feel like you walk them with your prompts all the way through an end result, Now you are ready to go on to the next thing. Okay. And so it's important if you're going to do prompts to guide the reader. Sometimes people add in activities that they can do. And I do have a few activities in this book that they can do. And other times it's just they ask questions and that the person has to answer those questions. And once you have that outline, now you can look at, okay, how many pages do I want to use for each prompt? In my case here, I only did just a small section for the prompts because I encourage them to use additional pages, either sheets or get another notebook and to do it because they may not. This I just did this here just real quick, so that was good for that. But you are in charge of what you want to do. Your journal can be smaller, it can be larger, depending upon what you want to do and what your budget is. Because the more pages you have, of course, you have to pay for those when you do your printing. And your journal can be black and white or it can be color. Just keep in mind that if it's color, that it's going to be more expensive to print. And as you're planning the amount of pages, you also want to take into account if you decide to do an ebook that if you have a whole lot of pages, then the person who purchases it may not want to purchase and then turn around and print the pages. So you want to take that into consideration. Your interior pages, you may use pictures. Just make sure that you have the right to use those pictures. You may have to buy those pictures. You can use graphics or characters and people, but just make sure you're not infringing upon someone else's copyright just in case you have this runaway bestseller of a journal and then you find out that you're facing all kinds of copyright and infringement issues. So it's really up to you. Or you can just do plain pages with your prompt instructions, numbered pages with your prompt instructions, and then you are ready to do your printing. So the printing, there are different platforms that you can use to print. Amazon is one if you have over 100 pages, and of course you can use Amazon and they will do more than likely a perfect bind type of book. Now if you're looking to do maybe saddle stitch or the wire bind type of books or the coil type of books. I kind of like the books that lay flat personally. I mean, that's just me personally. But you have Spark, Ingram Spark, Ingram Spark to print your saddle stitch. And that a saddle stitch is really just a three staples in a book. Okay, so and they call that saddle stitch. You may even want to check your local printers for your coil and wire binding or even your saddle stitch. You may find that the price might be cheaper, particularly if you have black and white. And if you have color, you may end up being a little bit more pricey. If it is a journal, like I said earlier, I do prefer to have a journal that kind of lays flat. Now, if I'm doing more of diary type writing or just journaling, but if I'm going to be doing it from the standpoint I'm going to be working on something, answering a prompt, I would like to have it more flat. But if I'm just going to have a journal to write, then a perfect bind is fine. So, what size journal do you need or do you want? And you can go online and look at the different size journals based upon what topic you've chosen and see what best fits. The average size is maybe a 5.5 by 8.5 or an 8.5 by 11 or a 6 by 9 or a 9 by 6. So you get to choose, and perhaps you might want to go to the bookstore, and if you don't have know what sizing, or measure a book like you have on your shelf maybe, and see what sizes and then what size is more befitting to what you want. So, what do you charge for your journal? Well, I always send you back into the marketplace because you don't want to be overpriced in your pricing because then you will price yourself right out of the market. So check the market. Amazon is a good resource for that. See what journals are selling for depending upon how many pages. And then of course you can always come somewhere in between because you're like the newcomer on the block. And then where can you sell your journals? Well, there are a few places that you can sell, but you can get creative on that. You can, if you have a website, or I know you have some free websites that you can use, maybe create one page, put your book, your journal on that. Or if you have a regular website, just put it in your bookstore. You also can put it on your blog. If you need a place, you actually do need a place where you people can purchase it that are interested. So create. You can also create an Etsy store, although you only have one journal, but it could be encouraging to do one journal, then maybe do several journals to sell on Etsy. Also, you can sell on the Facebook Marketplace, and you don't need to have necessarily a website in order to do that. You can post in groups that allow you to promote books. I know of several groups that I'm a part of that I can promote my actual book. Some all groups that have to do with publishing, you cannot necessarily, or they have maybe one day where you can publish or promote your book. Well, that's all I have for today. If there's anything that I've shared that was of value to you, that has helped you in any way to have a different thought process as you are going about promoting your book and making sales, then share it with your friends and relatives. Or if you have any book publishing questions, you can email me at coach23blondie@gmail.com. So until next time, Coach Blondie signing off. Keep the faith.